Hi, welcome to the League-Kempner House in Galveston. We are a nonprofit restoring this incredible house, and it has been a really busy start to the summer. We had a previous video kind of showing you the chaos of a day with so many contractors coming and going at the same time. Last week we regrouped a little bit and I pulled out just the electrical work going on with Mateo and his crew, but we're going to get back into the yard. We'll recap a little bit with Ricardo. We're also getting ready for a big fundraising event, our Victorian fashion show, so it has just been wild. But the week started off with a birthday present for me. Our board member Stephanie went down to the Lucas apartment, and it doesn't have a lot of storage space, but there's some. And we take a lot of our League-Kempner stuff down there so it can be air conditioned, like our extra t-shirts and promotional literature. And I just kind of stick it anywhere I can. Stephanie's a super organizer. She took everything out of every cabinet, organized it, made a bunch of trips to the resale shop to get rid of some things we didn't need and to get all our League-Kempner stuff organized in one place so we can easily access it. So a big thank you to her. It was an all-day job. But meanwhile, back at the house, Ricardo and crew were there. If you recall, they were down in the basement. They had demolished some of the arches that had failed, and we were waiting on the steel lintels to be delivered so that we could rebuild this space with a higher head height. So this is going to be an apartment. We need to be able to walk freely through here and not whack our heads on these low arches, and also they had structurally failed, so they needed to be fixed. And as you recall, in that process we unearthed a lot of termite damage in these floor joists back in the back part of the house. This is one reason why we do demolish a lot of things. Remember, way years ago, this was all covered with tongue and groove pine boards, and that was a finished space. It had beadboard walls and you couldn't see into the structure, so we need to do that. And when you get into a structure like that, you uncover things like here's some kind of metal tie support that goes between the fireplace hearth above that they built to actually hold the weight of the stove and kind of the chimney structure itself. So it's always fun to see inside the walls. Ricardo, as you know, he's fast. He's always getting ahead. He'd put up a floor joist already over here that I needed him to take down because walls are a moisture problem. This brick wicks water from the outside. Before these new joists go up, even though they're treated lumber, I want to paint that 2-part epoxy resin on the outside to block any moisture from getting into this board. This is not kind of lifetime lumber. I wouldn't even say it's rated for 20 or 30 years in wet condition anymore because they've changed how they do treated lumber. So we need to do everything we can to keep it from rotting and to keep termites from getting in. So I'm going to have him take this down, and I think I got out of order actually in the last video. I think it ended with me putting the epoxy on the ends and the side of this board, so we won't go back and revisit that too much, but this is just something we need to do to keep this wood from rotting and to keep termites from coming in the future. I want to do the ends. And remember, while all this is going on, we have a lot of other things going on at the house. We're still doing tours upstairs. We have volunteers coming to work. Kelly stopped by to see what was going on, and I showed her present. Some of you who are members have probably seen this before in one of our members' video, but we had a little safety issue here. Kelly had tripped over the guy wire that comes down from the electric pole, so I bought a safety cover online to make that a little brighter and more obvious so we don't have any further tripping hazards in the future. And this was late in the day, so I finished up with the boards and went home, and then we picked up the next day bright and early and continued on with the work. So Ricardo and his guys were back in the basement replacing those joists, and this is one of those handy tools that Ricardo has. It's this little mini blower, and my husband actually gave me one for my birthday one year, but unfortunately it got stolen when we had the break-in, and all our tools got stolen. So I think I'll put it on my Christmas list again for this year. But this is just why we have to visually inspect everything. This is the wood that came out of this area, and you can see just how rotted and termite damaged it is. There's very little structural strength left in these boards. There's not much left to it. I think the only reason the floor above is still there and not collapsed in is because it's multiple layers of concrete, and it just holds together kind of as a unit. So all of this stuff needs to come out, and we need to get it replaced with something that can last another 100 years. I just hate termites. They're just awful, awful things. So that's why that epoxy on the end, this is the second day, it's drying a little bit. Now on this board you can see I coated the whole side of it because the entire board presses up against the brick wall in that very last joist there. So the entire thing needs to be covered. So this will keep water from wicking up. It'll also keep termites maybe from getting in the end of it. So back inside to get these things installed. So it's just a simple process. They've done it over and over and over again. So we are going to leave these guys to it in the basement, and we are going to turn to the big project of the day. So just like Mateo and the electrical, we're going to condense down and show you just one thing that was happening today, and that is our trees. So if you've watched our previous videos, you know we have been fighting something called lethal bronzing, which is a very, very deadly palm tree disease that we are the unlucky epicenter of an outbreak here in Texas. So it's a big deal with the State Agriculture Commission. We're under scrutiny, but we are concerned because we are losing trees, and that's what makes this lot so beautiful. So we need to get a few back. We've lost so many. And I consulted the Galveston Island Tree Conservancy, which is another nonprofit group whose aim is to plant 25,000 trees on Galveston. So a little back history here. In 2008, Hurricane Ike storm surge flooded Galveston and destroyed 80% of the island's tree canopy. That was over 40,000 trees, and many of those were oak trees that were planted after the Great Storm of 1900 and financed by none other than J.C. League himself. So we have a very direct connection to the trees. So this was reported as the worst loss of urban tree canopy in U.S. history. So we are so sad about losing even more, but we have talked to them, and they recommended Wagner Tree Farm, which is a tree farm nearby, and for fast growing trees they recommended that we get some crepe myrtles in. So we need something that will grow fast and give us shade. Crepe myrtles also provide a lot of color, and they have a very good root system for being close to buildings and sidewalks. They don't lift up concrete or crack it the way other trees do. We also want to get another oak tree back. We do have 3 oak trees in the back and a couple up by the driveway, but we would like to have more on the property. We just don't want them out by our sidewalks. So the guys came with the trees that I had picked out, and then we had to decide where to put them. So we walked around for quite a while and looked at all the various choices. I'm worried about the greenhouse because we've lost some trees, palm trees close to it, and I think we're going to lose our big ones that sit on the west side of it. The canopies were intertwined with the diseased trees. We want to leave a lot of the yard open for events and tents and things, so we have to be careful with placement with a view towards the long-term use of the yard also. And then we also have some visual things we want to take care of like blocking some of the view of the apartment and greening up bare spaces. So after we walked around and picked all the spots and talked about it, they brought in heavy equipment. I was a little worried. I guess I assumed they would hand dig this, but it would have taken days, so they brought in a big machine and an auger. And of course, we just had all that excavation done and everything is smooth and ready for grass to go down, but they assured me that they would be careful and not mess that up. So this auger was kind of cool. It made short work of the process. So they got it in through that back gate. They brought it in and started the process of digging the holes. And the first one went great. It was super easy. It took seconds to dig the hole.
And an oak tree. Pretty now. It'd be all sand.
No, they've brought in so much dirt. We've taken 2 feet of dirt off of here, and we're still in the dirt they added on top for the gardens over time. That was awesome.
Yeah, you'll have some little prints like that.
I can break that out as long as he doesn't gouge anything.
No, we're not going to gouge. I told you, be real careful when you're driving.
Yeah, don't do a wheelie or spin out.
So 2 quick rivers are going to be beautiful.
Yeah, we're going to get 6. We're going to get 3 across the fence over there, 1 here, 2 here, and 2 big white ones out on the street, and an oak tree in the front.
Nice. Sherry and Kelly said to tell you they're going to
Crowbirds, yes.
So as I said, the first hole was great. So they moved the auger over and placed the tip where we want the center of the next tree to be. So it's symmetrical on either side of the greenhouse. And then they got started. And we were just having a conversation about using this machine and needing to be careful of where it goes to miss roots from other trees and obstructions and all this stuff. And they don't go very deep, maybe a foot, I don't know, not very far, and they hit an obstruction. So they tried again, and it was making a horrible noise. You could hear it scraping on something really solid like rock or concrete. Of course, we know we don't have rocky soil here. It's very sandy, as you can see. And it turns out right where we wanted to put this is some old wall structure. Now, who knows what this is? It's not on any of the Sanborn maps. It's too deep, I think, to be one of the flower bed concrete borders that we had removed when we did the first excavation. It might be something related to the original house that was here, but nevertheless, it's, I don't know, 8 to 12 inches wide. It goes straight down, and it is exactly where we need this tree to be. So what should have been another 2 or 3 second process to dig a hole turned into a lot of hand digging and sledgehammering and trying to get this thing broken out. We don't have to get it out all the way. The roots will kind of form around it, but we do need to be able to get the root ball down in here in the correct position, so you can see how big a chunk of concrete is coming up here. So while they took the time to hand dig and get all of that done, we decided to go ahead and take the machine and the auger and go over and start on the next hole. So look at the difference with the first one that was so neat and clean and this second mess that we're dealing with. But the next one worried me a little bit. It's back where those palm trees were, but we found an area without roots, and they got that one dug pretty quickly. So while they were doing that, I headed around the side to see what was going on with Ricardo and crew. They had moved outside and set up scaffolding to work on those outside windows. So after checking that out, I went back to the third area where we're going to do the trees, and they started on the first hole, which was great. It was already done by the time I got there. And then they started on the second hole, and we immediately again ran into a problem.
So see the mortar line right here?
Oh, yep, that's a mortar line. I don't know, because the garage was in that corner over there.
We drilled that hole and missed it. But it's here, there, it's all over there.
Wow, that's a hole. It goes all the way back to the fence?
Well, no, it goes to the fence this way.
Yeah, oh, it goes back this way.
I think we're going to have to move back out here to set these trees in.
Oh, okay.
You're not digging through that.
Kind of aligned with where the palms were already. All right, so he's found foundation here. So I kind of wondered, because the grass is always a little anemic. You can see where it is. So we can put the one here.
So that's why the grass is so thin.
It looks like this may be the end of it. So maybe if we try one here.
We can do that.
And we
can do here and then go down. We'll even them out for now. I mean, if I had the tools to do it, I don't have it. I could bring my forks and replant or something. And we could dig around this and bust some of this out.
If I had known that when the big excavator was here, we could have popped that up.
So kind of back to square one again. Since the auger can't drill the hole, we're going to have to figure out the placement along the fence. We decided to just put that aside for now and move on to the next 3 trees. And that's 2 big crepe myrtles out by the street, where we have some old palm trees that probably aren't long for this world. And then our crowning jewel is our oak tree that we're planting, a live oak. So remember, J.C. League is the one who brought live oaks to Galveston in the first place, pre-1900 storm, and then financed them again after the storm. So we want to get one planted up here in the front. We don't want to put them near our sidewalk in the street, because the roots do grow big and lift up and break the sidewalk, and we just spent a boatload of money on our sidewalks. But we're going to put it deep in the property so that the roots have plenty of space to spread out, and also the canopy has room to spread out and get fully developed. I don't personally care that they put so many in the esplanade. It makes them too close together and the canopies can't grow and spread. But here in the yard, it can grow and spread, and they'll get 70 feet wide. So it's going to be gorgeous here in the front. I also went out in the street and looked at how you would stand and take pictures of the house to make sure we weren't obstructing the view. So all the while this is going on, back over by the greenhouse, they're still working on that wall and getting that concrete out of there so they can get this second crepe myrtle here in front of the greenhouse. So finally they got enough of it out, and they don't have to take everything out, just enough to get the root ball in, because the roots will kind of form and go around any other obstructions in the ground. But they finally got it to where they could get the entire root ball in and got this second tree over and placed. And they're going to be really pretty. Crepe myrtles are not native to Texas. We'd love to use some more native plants, and we'll be doing that in the future. But right now, again, as I said, we need something that grows super fast and gives us shade. And crepe myrtles really fill the bill. They can also be close to structures like this and not cause a problem with their roots. They're also easy to trim and keep in control, and it's something we can do ourselves and not have to pay for maintenance on the trees going forward. So we have to be aware of all these factors when we make decisions about what to do in the yard and in the house. But I think these are going to be a really great addition. We have a lot of green things in the yard, but we don't really have a lot of things that bloom, and crepe myrtles will bloom really heavy for about 4 months of the year. So all summer long they'll bloom and give us color, and I think they look really pretty up here against the white of the greenhouse. Now, this is not really a great time of year to be planting any kind of a tree because of the heat and the dryness that we have. So it's going to take a lot of effort to keep these things alive. But crepe myrtles are pretty hardy. They'll go dormant and come back out of the ground from the roots. But we're going to try to keep them alive because I already think they're a nice addition here. So we get these in, we get a little lesson on tree maintenance, and then we do have that hole back over there where the palm trees were lost that we can put another one in, and then we'll have to come back and make a decision about what to do over there against the fence. But for right now, these are looking great, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. And Wagner Tree Farm was so patient with this. So this one is, again, was an easy one to get in, but while they were doing it, one of the guys who'd been kind of hand digging around where we have to make a decision on the fence brought me a treasure. So you saw when we excavated before that we hit some kind of a trash pit and found some bottles. So look at this cute one that came up, and it's completely full. So we headed back over to that side, and the machinery is making quite the mess of our newly excavated yard, but they did have a bucket on the truck, so they brought it in and they were going to use it to smooth everything back out. But since they had it and it was here, we started talking about that slab. They made the decision to go ahead and try to break it up and get the trees planted where we wanted them in the first place. So this is a ton of extra work. They did not have to do this. So I'm extremely appreciative. And then I got very excited because back over around the other one, they're raking and cleaning up, and more pieces of bottle and trash are coming up. So now I'm wanting to just take this thing and dig up the whole yard. But first things first, we've got to get that slab out of here. And it turned out to be a pretty big one, actually. So I'm not sure what would have been here. It could have been a old tool shed. It could have had something to do with the original house that was here. Maybe it was back way earlier than the League house. So that Blum house was built probably in the 1870s. We haven't been able to get the exact date of that. So this probably predates our house by a few years. So I'm curious to see how it comes up and how it's built. So the planting of the tree is going very slowly because he keeps finding more and more things in the dirt that came up. So I decided I need to go get a rake and help him slowly sift through everything that's there and see what we can find. So it's kind of exciting to find something old like this on the property. And they were getting like more and more of a mess over here with the other stuff. I can't believe all the concrete that's come out of this place, but they tried to sort through the concrete and the dirt and kind of get the dirt back in place and smooth this area out so they can bring the auger back and actually dig the correct hole that they need. So again, a big thanks to Wagner Tree Farm because they really went above and beyond helping us out with this project. But we're all interested in this point in the glass bottles, and sure enough, more little bottles keep coming up, and actually a few big bottles. So we are getting quite the collection of things. I'm going to research how to get them cleaned up, and we're going to make a display in the house of all the goodies that we've been finding. So that's the way it goes. One thing leads to another. We make big messes. They ended up taking out the entire concrete slab, which I was very grateful for. Again, they didn't have to do that. We finally got to the point where we could put the next tree in, so they got that going and started. And there's no goodies down at that end. Everything is up closer to this first one. So they've got the kind of the area cleaned up. It needs to be smoothed off and put back together before they bring the auger in and actually dig the hole for the crepe myrtle. So, and then we kind of paced off and eyeballed where to put the third tree. No tape measures here. So pacing back and forth, picking the center. A lot of pacing going on. So we finally decide where we're going to put it. And he goes and gets the auger and comes back and does that final hole over here by the fence. And of course, there's a few little bricks and things in the ground that make it not quite as smooth, but way better than a concrete foundation being down there. So while they're getting that tree in place, he's going to continue on removing the concrete and getting this area smoothed out. And then we will head over and work on the front. So, what an absolutely crazy day. Again, while all this was going on, we've got tours going on in the house. Ricardo's here. Our volunteers are showing up to do work. Kathy's here. Our board member Letitia came. She's getting ready for the Victorian fashion show that's going to be at the church next door in just one day from this. So we have so much to do over there. We still have to make all the food and get everything set up and get decorated for that. And she's going to go sit at the Lucas right now because I don't know if you remember from previous videos, we have a major rat issue going on. I've had to hire an exterminator. They're coming today to do a lot of work in the house to try to solve that problem, and somebody has to be there and I have to be here. So Letitia's going to do that for me while she does some last minute things on the fashion show. She's always a good sport. And then of course, you know, Ricardo and crew, they just move so fast. They've already finished that one window I showed you at the beginning. They've moved the scaffolding around to the side. There's a couple more windows over there they have to work on. So we are just really blowing and going here. So you guys need to turn on your notifications and subscribe because the work just keeps ramping up. There's still so much more to do. But for now, we're going to get our oak tree up here in the front. We're going to get those crepe myrtles on the side, and I'm going to get back in the house and get busy with the work that I need to do. And a big thank you to Wagner Tree Farms for, again, their patience and doing so much extra work that they had not counted on, and they did not charge us anything extra for doing all of that. So we are very grateful to everyone that helps us with this project. We are not the only ones that love this crazy old house. We appreciate you guys too. So we will see you back here next Sunday with the next installment of all the goings on at the League-Kempner House in Galveston, Texas.